Hey, everyone out there. Thanks for joining us for another Practical Pet Business. We know you've got a lot on your plates running your business, running your life, going through all the different things that are coming at you on a regular basis. Which, Lauren, brings me to the topic for today, which is we do have lives we're leading while we're running these businesses. How much do you share? How much do you hide from everybody, your staff, your customers, the world? It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it is a lot. So, in general, um, people are all living their own lives too. So how much you share, it can be overwhelming for customers who are coming in, they just want to get what they need, and you will probably know the customers that you could do that with. Should you? I had maybe one or two customers that I was that close to, that were family friends kind of thing, and still didn't share everything, but I mean they knew somebody was sick or things like that. And of course if you're sick and you're at the store, people can tell if you're sick, or if you're not at the store and they ask your staff. But one of the things that comes up is we all have animals, right? I mean, that's why we're in the business. And do you share when that loss happens? And there's no right answer here. There's pros and cons to all of it. I mean, empathy is an amazing thing. It can be really helpful. It can help people heal. It can also raise memories that are difficult for people to handle. They compartmentalize, they put that away so that they're, maybe it's something they never get over and they're just barely able to breathe at this point. And it's been 2 years, but it doesn't consume every waking moment for them. And then you're a mess when they come in and it just reawakens everything. And then when it's all said and done, we're running a business, right? The other side of that is if you have an animal that is in your store and people know and people have met the animal, how do you hide that? You can't. The dog that was in my store, I sold my store before we had to deal with that, but she passed in the same year. And I know that would have been devastating for so many of my clients and not something I would have been able to hide. Um, and and I would have suffered that additional 1,000 daggers that I would have suffered every time somebody came in who didn't know or didn't hear. So do you put a post out? Do you put in loving memory? Do you put a picture up? Do you let people know? Because they're going to reach out when they see it. But does it help mitigate people coming in? I don't know that it does, because they come in and they need to share their experience with the
Yeah.
loss of that kid. And it's one of those things that when you're sharing your animal in your place of business, I think you got to suck up and suffer that 1,000 daggers to be there for your clients too, because it's heartbreaking for them. It makes them think about the kids they've lost. Maybe they felt more deeply about your kid, than you realized. Maybe it was so much joy for them to come in and see your kid, pet your kid, talk to your kid. I know that my kid reacted, Puka, she reacted to specific customers in ways that they felt special. They knew that they were special to her. And I had this one grumpy client, so grumpy. And he adored her. And she adored him. And he was kind of a jerk. I talked about him before, but he turned out to be a great client. He was still just a jerk, but he was a great client, and I got to where I understood him, and he adored her and she loved him. And I know that he would have lost everything, in that moment if she had been there when she passed away and was no longer there. So I think that it's that responsibility of when you allow your kid to be part of people's lives in your place of business, you have to take the the bad and share that as well. I think you
Yeah.
really have to.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take the fork in the road a little bit
Okay.
and say it, it may not feel good, but to me it's part of the healing. So it's not bad as much as it's just everybody needs to heal from a loss. And to your point, empathy um, often breeds empathy
Hmm.
in unexpected ways. And it is interesting. I mean, even just hearing you, reference this, particular client, um, the connection points that we have are built on those experiences, those sharings. And when we talk about it, especially for the independent retailers, so much of the connection, the feeling of loyalty is it's not to the store, it's to the every bit of it. The good, the bad, the indifferent, the humans, the pets, the vendors, all of it factor in. And the loss of something like that is obviously going to create questions. And we've talked about it um, in different ways, but this is a living being that is no longer there and a part of our lives. And of course, it's going to be, you know, it's going to impact folks in different ways. And I think I've shared with you, one of the interesting points for me was um, I finally broke down and told someone how devastated I was months after Sugar had passed. And this person who I'd known on a business level, top executive, et cetera, said, I still cry every day for my loss 15 years ago, Rob. There will be moments that are just going to catch you. That's how great the impact was. And I think that's what we've got to keep in mind and embrace. We may not even know how special our in most cases, it's dogs. Sometimes it's birds. I used to go to this one pet shop. I'm not a big bird guy. My other family members are, but this bird just used to thrill me. When they were doing their shopping and walking around, I just sit there and stare at this bird, listen to the bird yap and say things. And then the bird wasn't there that one day, to your point, right? And my hope was that it had gotten adopted. That wasn't the case. Um, no one probably knew how much I enjoyed that bird, and everything about it. Um, and so it's just one of those point of connections, and I really think it's tough. It's hard. I don't think we know how to really process and deal, other than just get through it. And
Right.
in the past year, I've had pets that have not in my family, but pets that have passed, extended family, extended friends. Um, I've had humans who have passed, and I've really tried to be better about sharing in a positive way, but not deepening the wounds. Because I love that you said they've got to relive your feelings, and that reopens their feelings. And that's tough. It's tough because you want to acknowledge that there is no playbook for it. I've talked to pet grief folks in the pet space, and I've talked to human grief folks and those who hybrid and all that. There's just no playbook for it. So I like that you called out. You make a choice, it's yours to make, right? But know that you, your stories, your pet in the store, outside the store, it doesn't matter, are having an impact. You may not fully understand all those ways. And I will tell you, I've heard from other store owners like you that they were surprised not just how they would react when they had a loss, meaning the store owner had a loss, but how much it impacted the store owner emotionally when their clients would come in. And so I love, that's the connection point. That's what's so special. about these beings. They, are here for too short, and they grow our hearts so big and create these spaces that can never be filled. They can only be continued to be grown by other pets. So I love that you called out all those different elements. But yeah, it's a business. You got to run it. But that doesn't mean you've got to put your walls up constantly, because you know that's just a different
Well,
way to.
look how many clients would come in to tell you that their kid died.
Yeah,
I mean, it was, I was in tears all the time when that happened, because I played a part in that kid's life of theirs. And whether it was through helping their pet parent or, when they come in and I'd get smooches and cuddles, there's so many animals that, oh my gosh, that I knew from the time that they were puppies until the end. And it impacts you.
it does. It does. As the photographer, one of the things that was really interesting and impactful for me, and it's a bit of a different world now. Everybody's got cameras on their phones that, you know, they should be snapping a million pictures. But the amount of times a pet parent will reach out to let me know and how these were even more special, but the request 100% of the time, without exception, was, do you have any pictures of us there at the studio with, and the first time it happened, I remember scouring all of our photos from that. And we had things with the setup and all that. Um, Nothing that I really wanted. And I was so angry with myself, because the reason I started the photographer was to create heirloom portraits that anyone could look at and see the beauty of that being. And I had failed because I stopped with the pet and forgot about, oh, hey, that's right. This is a unique space where pets and humans can be in the photos and the scenes together. What an idiot I am. And it transformed my business from there out. And it was so funny. The first time a client would come, they, they would object. I'm not going to, no, I'm not dressed for it. I don't. And I'm like, please just do this for me. And I can't, I'm not going to sour the whole mood by going, here's why. But I'd say, I just like to have this, and I feel it relaxes the pet, that, hey, if you'll get into it, they'll get it. That had nothing to do with it. I knew there was going to be a point in time where they would reach out and give me that awful news that that being was no longer there. And they were going to thank me. And there was going to be, hey, if you could you go through all that? It's the same thing in your stores, but I want you to know the impact to my business was tremendous. That was not my goal, but because I was open, I was sharing, I had those things going on, and I listened in those awkward, awful moments. What else could I do? I did not, I was a photography studio, and yet I had a whole line of cremation products and memory, you know, basins for these folks, because it just happens too often. It wasn't something I wanted to do, and quite often, frankly, we would gift them that as a, we're really sorry, we, want to just say our thanks. But the impact to your business is ongoing, and so please know that they also want to know they're dealing with a human being. It's okay to say, I'm having a rough go. My dog, my cat, my fish, my bird passed away. And in many instances, that was your passion. That's what drove you to really get deeper into this pet world and start your business, continue your business, get through the tough times, drive your passion so that you became more educated. It's okay to say you're going through everything that everybody else goes through when they lose a pet or they're struggling. That empathy part you hit on, I think it's one of the big failings for all of us as human beings. We just don't like to communicate any kind of weakness. Um, and it's not a weakness. It's a, this is what we all go through at different times. Now's my time to be experiencing that. Can you have a little grace for me? You know?
That brings up another thing that I struggled with as a store owner for years and years, the whole time I had a store, to carry or not carry cremation
Mm,
or, death type products. I say death type, meaning, the memorial things and stuff like that. And, I couldn't do it. I looked at them every year at the trade shows. I'd look at them as they'd come through my emails from companies. And I know it's a fact of life, but the the idea that somebody is going to come bouncing into my store with a brand new baby, and be all excited and look around the store and then come across that aisle or that section, that area was not something I could handle. I couldn't deal with
yeah,
that part of it. So I had resources for them if they asked after the fact,
sure.
but I couldn't deal with, oh my gosh, just having an air and my store, I carried everything. I tried to carry
Yeah,
in every category, I tried to carry the best there was
yeah,
within that category. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I looked at everything that came out and I was like, how would I feel? And having lost animals, I
yeah,
mean, I can't even talk about people losing their animals, without remembering instantly what that pain is. And
right,
because, it never goes away. You just learn
right.
to live with it. Um, and just thinking about, I don't know, just thinking about people living in the bliss of not thinking about that because it's coming, and
Right.
it's always going to come too soon. And I don't want to remind them of that. So for
Yeah.
me, it wasn't something I could bring into my store. Now, I've seen stores do it and they don't feel anything like that. They feel like it's a service. They feel like it's something that is part and parcel of the whole experience from start to finish. But it wasn't something I could deal with.
Yeah. Well, and again, going through it, I was scrambling because I was asked. And the first time I was asked, I had nothing. And I just had this inert need to find the best solution for them because I cared about this pet. And in my own way, it was like, here's how I'm going to honor this pet. I'm going to find something amazing. And you're right, there are so many different things. More, and I had more resources than I had options to, hey, this serves this, you can purchase this if you want it. And like I said, most of the time it was just part of that, hey, thank you. I am so sorry. I love you. Here's a disc of, my favorites. And by the way, here's, and we had jewelry that we would sell. And, back in the day, that was the only way you get that. So if you wanted that image on the jewelry, etc. But there were also the vessels. There were the Fabergé type egg, and all the rest of that. We didn't carry a huge line, but I had a couple of things because I just refused. It was very interesting. It's why I ended up doing Pet World Insider and so many other things was for whatever reason, people thought because I could take good pictures of animals that, hey, we can put Rob in a cage with tigers and we can have him go in with alligators and all these other things. That I didn't take lightly. I knew they saw me as someone who should be able to connect them with someone or something that they needed. And that's what led to Pet World Insider and all the things that I did after that. Because when people would ask, I knew they weren't asking out of curiosity. There was always something behind that ask. But to your point, yeah, I mean, if I'm a you know food and treat store, do I need to have? Hey, here's this section. No, absolutely not. And I think resources are just fine. But that trust level, that level of in my toughest times, I'm going to reach out and ask you, just always got to me. And as a business owner, I just felt like it's not my main focus at all, but I want to have a resource or two to at least confirm as well. Because how many times do you and I get asked things that, you know, does this even exist? And you and I are like, oh my God, yeah, there's like 25 of those. Let me,
Right.
from good, better to best and the, oh my God, penthouse. So that unfortunately is just one of those things, and it's one of the most certain paths that your customers are going to experience, unfortunately. So yeah, so there's a number of different things. Um, it's kind of the same way people would ask me to put angels on the photo after angel wings on the photo after, and to your point, it was something. I got to a point I could no longer do it myself. I had to have one of our other artists do it because um, it didn't take a long time, but I'm an emotional person, as some of you folks have been finding out who listen and watch our episodes. So I get connected to these beings, and
Well, and
each
because it's just not just a business, right? It's not just a
right,
business.
no,
You know,
no,
we're so involved and wrapped up in people's needs and how they care for their animals and the animals themselves and what their lives are going to be like that it's you just can't compartmentalize that and stick it to the side. Let me show you this over here.
right, right,
I can't even think about that. I mean, it's a struggle when somebody says, you know, so and so passed away, and it's like, okay, I'm dealing with that tidal wave that I just got hit with. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And now I'm supposed to sell you something. Uh, my mind's not even functioning like that.
right. Yeah, because listen, it's the hierarchy of what's important, right? What's
Right.
important in the world, and at the heart of it, it's health. We
And
want
wellness. Yeah.
everybody healthy. We want everybody to be thriving, happy. That's not an option,
Right.
that, right? So that's okay.
But it's coming. But it's
Yeah,
coming.
it is. It is. So, no, very, very heavy topic, but I do want to make sure, especially business owners, um, because it's tough. I mean, we haven't talked about, all the struggles, anxiety and all that in the folks that serve the pets, whether it be our veterinarians, whether it be business owners. And I've heard that so many times, what you shared when we were kicking this off, of folks that never take a vacation, that are, so wrapped up that they miss out on what other industries professionals experience, and they can delineate between I'm at work, I'm at home, you know and it's okay, all of you out there, you're passionate human beings. um, those that you feel comfortable with, let them into these things. None of us expect you to be a concrete, no emotion. That's not why we come to you. So it's okay. And sometimes you just need a dang hug to get through the day. And just know, you know, Laura and I, we got you. We get it. We have all um, gone through things we don't want to talk about. And I think you'd be surprised to see how many people you can just say, today's not my day to talk about it, but I'm having a real rough day. And that'll flip an interaction and build trust quite often in a way that you weren't expecting. So it's
And
okay.
empathy and compassion and all those things. Because none of your clients have gone unscathed.
Yeah. No, no. So, all right. On that, let's
Happy
go ahead.
note.
Let's go ahead and say, please make sure you send us your suggestions for upcoming episodes, your thoughts. How do you deal? What do you share with your customers? What's your staff? We really didn't even dive too much into that. And I thought that was where we'd probably spend a majority of our time on this, because that's important as well. So don't be surprised if we work that back into a discussion at some point. But Let us know what's on your mind, what's going on in your business, the things that Laura and I can talk about and share experiences, insights, advice. We're happy to do that. Send that over to us at practicalpetchat@gmail.com. Visit us on our social media networks, wherever you're consuming us. We really appreciate you. One thing we'd ask from you this week, share us with one of your friends. Hopefully, this is the type of conversation that would help them maybe unlock something. So thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you and your time and all that you do in the pet world.
Thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.